So cold brew coffee? Cold brew coffee has an identity problem. People either know nothing about it or they think it's the same drink as iced coffee with a different name. It's never really had the intro that it fully deserves. I'm Major Cohen, part of the coffee education team at Cumulus Coffee. Welcome back to the Cold Brew Lab. So we've explored origin, we've explored nitro. Today we're going to the core. We're actually going to talk about how the coffee is created, how it's brewed. And then we're going to talk about Cumulus. And we're going to talk about how Cumulus has approached this idea of brewing the coffee in yet again a more special and different way in order to create the cold brew experience. You think about your experience when you're ordering coffee in a cafe. Every time that you go, you're ordering iced coffee or cold brew, and I have to give you at least some historical perspective. There was a time when the shop or cafe might serve you the same thing and call it one or the other and not really differentiate. Today, less so, but still the case. You might go and order an iced coffee, and they may have made that cold brew and simply use that as their iced coffee. You might order a cold brew and they may just be making iced coffee and saying, this is our cold brew. That is not really fair. And we're gonna solve that problem, whether it's cold brew or iced coffee, although we're gonna talk cold brew. So iced coffee and cold brewed coffee are not two different versions of the same thing. And don't feel badly because it's not the consumer's fault. We've let you down, the industry being we. And we've never really explored both so that you would understand the difference and how to choose. All right, we're gonna get into three things. We're gonna talk about how the coffee's made. What we're gonna do next is talk about the difference in taste, because the way you make it is gonna change the way it tastes. And then we're gonna talk about the coffee's behavior over time. When you let it sit, how does it change? So let's talk about how it's made. Cold brew is made with cold water. It's a deliberate choice. The extraction process, the pulling from the grounds into the liquid to make this coffee is totally different with cold brew than it is with hot. So cold brew, the water is cold. Doesn't have to be ice cold, but it can be because what you're gonna do with it is so unique. You're gonna take your coffee grounds and you're going to put them in some vessel, and then you're going to put in water and you're gonna let them sit. Unlike hot brewing, which is generally 4 minutes or 6 minutes, you're gonna let that coffee and water sit together for 12 hours. Sometimes 24 hours. What's gonna happen? The coffee and water are gonna go through this extraction process and you're gonna end up with liquid, which is your coffee. There's a smoothness to cold brew that is not the same as when you're drinking hot coffee. It's one of the things that people love about cold brew. So with extraction with the hot coffee, you're using water that is boiling or slightly off the boil, depending on who you ask. Boiling water and grounds, and they're together. They might be together in a cone, they might be together in a French press, but the idea is the same. Hot water, coffee grounds, and together that extraction is the pulling of elements out of the coffee. Hot coffee brewing is often thought to bring out some of those elegant nuances of acidity, bodily, and flavor that we've talked about earlier in the lab. So I use the word extraction. When you have grounds, that's your coffee. The coffee is ground slightly different because of the time it's going to take for the extraction to happen, for the stuff to come out of the ground. It's a little finer with hot coffee because it happens more quickly. The heat brings things out of it differently in a more rapid time. With cold brew, it's going to take longer, so the grounds are going to be coarser, and the coffee and the grounds are going to sit together for a longer amount of time, and in the end, what's pulled out, what's extracted, is going to be different. It's still going to feature acidity and body and flavor, but all of that is going to be different in a cold brewed coffee than it is with a hot brewed coffee. When we're brewing, we've pulled sugar and oils and heavier compounds, and honestly, you could describe the extraction for both hot and cold the same way. But what's really unique, and which results in lower acidity and fuller body with cold brew, is that what's pulled, what's coming out of the ground coffee, is different in each. So there's a clear distinction. And remember, keep in mind, we talked about this earlier in the episode. Iced coffee is hot coffee which has been chilled down and iced. It's often diluted or made stronger so you could do that with the ice. Cold brew coffee, it's not smooth because it's weak, it's smooth because cold water is selective about what it takes out of the ground coffee. So we're gonna touch on one last thing here, and we're gonna talk about cold brew versus iced coffee and how they behave over time. What we found is that when you brew a cold brew, we end up understanding lower acidity and fuller body. And one of the things that does is it allows the cold brew to hold its attributes better, longer over time. It doesn't fall apart the same way that hot coffee brewed and iced falls apart. All of this shows the benefits of what you can achieve when you focus from beginning to end on cold coffee and a cold coffee experience. And brewing is key to that process. Cold brew. It's never been easy. And what I want to do now is explore with you the Cumulus solution to making it easy, because we have. So we've actually have done the work for you. And the work is just that. It's 12 to 24 hours with equipment, with a recipe. And we've done that. And I have to be honest with you. I've made hundreds of cold brews in the old-fashioned way. One of the things that I observed, which does not exist in Cumulus, is a lack of consistency. I would make beautiful cold brew, and it would taste delicious. But making it a second time was never easy. In fact, mostly impossible. And so with Cumulus, every time you put a capsule in our machine and create a cold brew experience, whether it's espresso or nitro or cold brew, you're going to have the same consistent, delicious coffee. We've taken a process that often has taken people 12 to 24 hours with a lack of consistency, and we've brought it down to under 60 seconds for a delicious cold brew nitro, cold brew espresso, cold brew still, across a range of coffees. All of this ease that we've been talking about is something you probably never conceived of having at home, on your counter, or in your office kitchen. All of this can happen once you plug your machine in. And that's something that is beyond incredible, because this idea of taking this hugely complex process down to put your plug in, put in your water, wait a little time, 60 seconds after you put the capsule in, you have delicious coffee. Next time you want a cold brew, I hope you know a little more about it so you know why you're choosing it. Maybe it's the fuller body, maybe it's the smoothness, the lower acidity. I hope that what we've talked about has solved cold brew in a way for you so that it's clear what the difference is and what you're after when you order a cold brew that's well made. You understand what to look for, you understand what you're experiencing, and how you might be able to do that at home or in your office. Our next episode is going to explore the coffee flavor wheel, a tool that is used professionally around the world to have people have a clearer way to talk about coffee amongst themselves. I'm Major Cohen. This has been the Cold Brew Lab.